everyone. This is Amy C. Waninger with Lead at Any Level, and you are here with me on Lead at Any Level Live. I want to welcome you. This is a live video I do, usually runs about 15 minutes every Monday at noon Eastern, and you may be finding me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube right now. Wherever you're coming in from, thank you so much. It's so nice to have you with me. I want to give everybody just a moment to get on. I think I started a minute early, which I don't normally do, but I want to give everybody a chance to catch up. And when you are here, I would love it if you would let me know in the chat, which I may or may not be able to see today. I'm working on that. Where you're coming in from. And if you've ever wondered this, the question that I get asked most when I'm talking about the work that I do with Lead at Any Level is usually some variation of how did you get into this work, or why do you do it, or what made you change your whole career. And I think the reason I get asked this is because a lot of folks who have been in the speaking and diversity and inclusion and leadership space for, have either been here for a really long time or very, very recently. And I wanted to share just a little bit about kind of why I got into this work and how, because it really is a question that comes up a lot, if I'm talking to people one-on-one, or, if I'm doing podcasts or media interviews, or even sometimes in sales conversations. And so I wanted to share that with you. And then be sure and stick around, because even if you've heard this before, I have a special invitation for you at the end of this session that I hope that you will take me up on, because I want to not just share why I do what I do, but help some of you take some steps in this direction too. So let's start with, hi, I see someone's on. Feel free to tell me in the chat, where you're coming from and what you're hoping to hear today. So let's do this. The question that I get asked a lot is, okay, why do this work? Why quit a job where you were making, really good money, and you were upwardly mobile, and you kind of got promoted a whole bunch of times through a pretty large company before I came to do this work. And why do that? And why this work in particular? Because my background, if you look at my professional background, doesn't really lend itself to, go be a speaker on diversity and inclusion and inclusive leadership. My background professionally is in technology. I was a software developer, and then a designer, and then I started managing teams around analysis and design. And I worked, in a lot of different industries early in my career, but then the last 12 years that I was in technology roles, I worked inside a large insurance company. And I loved the work that I did. I loved problem solving. But one of the things that happened while I was doing, my job, just going about my business at work, is that a company that I worked for hired a chief diversity officer. And I had long had an interest in doing specifically social justice work. One of my ambitions when I was younger was I wanted to be a civil rights attorney. And my senior year of college, for those of you who don't know, I came from a very small town in southern Indiana. I didn't know a lot of people who graduated from college. And one of my ambitions was I would be a civil rights attorney. In my senior year of college, I learned how much law school was going to cost. I was already in a pretty considerable amount of debt at that point. And this was back in the day before everybody had a lot of debt for school. But I had quite a bit of debt coming out of my undergrad degree. I found out what law school was going to cost. I found out what pro bono meant about the same time. And I realized there just wasn't a path for me. I would never earn back what it would cost me to go to law school. So I got a job for a little while, and kind of worked a couple of different, I'm going to call them dead end jobs. They weren't going to go where I needed them to go. And someone suggested to me that I go back to school and get a degree in computer science. Now, this was pre Y2K, so very late 90s, and companies were hiring, for tech roles, because they really wanted to fix the Y2K bug. If you're not old enough to know what that is, just know that we all thought the world was going to end because of technology. It didn't. Because a whole bunch of people like me went to school to try to fix the problem. And you're welcome. And I found myself in tech roles for about the next 20 years. Now, a couple things happened. Number one, I got promoted into a management role before I had any idea how to be a manager, which is a lot of the driver behind why I think inclusive leadership is so important. I think a lot of people get promoted into management roles when they don't really understand that their job's going to change, the relationships are going to change, what's expected of them is going to change. And, you know, that can create some conflict. So if you worked with me back then and you stuck with me, thank you. I see you, I appreciate you. And if you worked with me back then and you said this woman doesn't know the hell she's doing and you never spoke to me again, but you wanted to come in today for some reason to see what I was up to, just know that I understand why at that point in my career you would have said no. I want nothing to do with this woman ever again. Uh, I was kind of a disaster for a while in a leadership role, but I didn't have proper training. I didn't have proper guidance all along the way, despite some mentors who tried to help me. And so, but I learned, and I've learned to help other people through that transition. Now, fast forward a few years, I'm working for a big company and they hired a chief diversity officer. And when I read what that person's role was, what their goals and objectives were, what they were trying to accomplish within the company, I realized that was a role that really aligned to my core values about, you know, people having fair opportunity, people getting a chance to do their best work, people getting a chance to show up, you know, authentically and, you know, be valued for what they contribute in an organization. And I thought, man, I would love to do work like that. That would be really something special. And so I started volunteering for everything in the world I could. If they didn't lock me out of the room, I was there volunteering. And I'm sure a few times they wanted to lock me out of the room. But here's the thing, I kept asking, okay, but how can I go back to my desk where I work, you know, in whatever department? I wasn't an executive at that time, right? I don't think I was ever actually an executive in a big company, but, you know, I wasn't an executive. What could I do? What could one person do to make a difference, to help make an environment at work where more people had opportunity to contribute their best work, to do their best, and to be their best selves? And I just kept walking away with not a lot of notes, honestly. You know, we went to a lot of I went to a lot of training around unconscious bias, and I went to some training on leadership and, you know, kind of how to position myself, but not really as much as how to help others, which is really what I wanted to do. And a couple of years later, I was able to go to a big conference. And I was absolutely terrified about going to this conference because I didn't know anybody there. It was going to be about 3,000 people from my industry. And I was really anxious about how do I interact in you know, in a conference that big. How do I, you know, how do I make friends? How do I find out, you know, what I can do to help people? And one of the things I decided to do was to just go to all of the sessions that interested me the most, because I thought, well, if I go to the sessions that interest me the most, I'm likely to find people that will be interested in the same things. And most of those sessions had to do with diversity and inclusion in the industry that I was working in. And so I showed up and, you know, I was ready with my notes about what could I do about things like systemic racism in the industry? What could I do to, you know, break glass ceilings in the industry? What can I do to close generation gaps in the industry? You know, there were all these different facets of what I call the problem, right? The problem is not everybody's able to advance to the level that they're capable. Not everybody's able to contribute at the level that they're capable. Not everybody's great ideas get heard because they don't come from places that people are used to listening to, right? All of these are big problems, and problems that industries need to solve, frankly, because, you know, we have to have new ideas coming in so that we can continue to innovate, but also so we can serve an ever-changing population and market around us. And so these were big questions I had. How do we do that? And I kept hearing about what leaders could do. And by leaders, I mean big L leaders, right? CEOs, policymakers, people who have a lot of influence and a lot of authority. But that's not most of us. Most of us have some influence and very little authority. That's kind of how the world works, right? And especially the world of corporate. So I figure everybody has a little bit of influence, maybe a lot. Almost nobody has a ton of authority, but a few people have a little. And what could we do that we could use what influence we have and what authority we can carve out to make the workplace better for everyone? And I really sat with that for a long time. And I thought about it and I pitched to the conference. Here's kind of the turning point in the story. If you're following along, I pitched to the conference organizers, hey, next year, instead of just talking about the problems, could I come and talk about what it is we can do about the problems? What is it one person can do, no matter what their job title is, no matter whether they're a supervisor or an individual contributor or an executive? What can one person do to make workplaces more inclusive, to make sure that we're solving some of the problems around, people not even being able to get into our organizations, or once they're in, they don't stay, or they stay but they can't move up. And let's talk about what any individual could do to make that a little bit better for people. And to my surprise and to my great delight, and also to my abject horror, they said, yes, come talk to us about that next year. And so then I had to kind of figure out, like, okay, I know what I want to talk about, but what do I want to say? And I'm telling you all of this for a couple reasons. Number one, people ask me, how did you get started in this work? This is how I got started in this work, trying to solve a specific problem, a gap that I saw in the work, which was, yeah, but what can I do about it? Was really the question I had. So I spent a long time researching, writing, thinking, pondering, talking to people about what's being done in this space and how can we do it a little bit differently. And what I came up with ultimately became the book Network Beyond Bias. And when I went through the process of creating the material, I created an assessment. And it's just a little, I have it on a postcard. I don't have one in front of me, but I have a little postcard that's just who's in your network. And it's very simple. It's, who are the five kinds of relationships you need in your network, who currently fills those roles for you now, and then who's missing from the conversation. What perspectives does your network ignore? And when I created this assessment, I will never forget, I was in the car, passenger seat, I want to be clear. Um, and my husband was driving, and I had my notebook, and I was brainstorming, how was I going to talk about this topic at this one conference one time. And these words started kind of jumping out on the page at me, and I realized I had the basis of an assessment. So I crafted the assessment in the car, and we got to our destination, and I said, hold on, I can't do anything right now, right? Vacation's going to have to wait. I want to go take this assessment that I just created. And I took the assessment, and I did not like what I saw at all. I realized that I was creating my own echo chamber of people who looked like me and thought like me and had similar professional backgrounds to me. And I didn't like that at all, because what I really believed to be true was the more diverse and robust and inclusive our networks, the more opportunity we're going to find, but also the more opportunity we can share with others. And while I believed that in my heart, I wasn't actually doing the thing that would make that possible for me. And so I decided then and there that I was going to change everything about my work. All of the discretionary aspects of my work I was going to change. And I started showing up differently. I started showing up to different places, talking to different people, engaging with different communities, inviting different people out to lunch than I'd ever done before. And ultimately really changed my network and changed like the flow of information into and out of, my brain, and what I was doing changed a lot around. Oh, I see some comments. Thank you for the comments, by the way. So thank you from Columbus, Ohio. Somebody says, just because a person does well in their current role doesn't mean they can manage others in that same role. That is absolutely true. And so one of the things that I realized was I wasn't doing the work that I thought I was doing. I wasn't being the person I felt like I should be. And so I changed everything. And when I changed everything, everything changed for me. And what that ultimately led to, fast forward, past the conference I was supposed to speak at but didn't get to because of natural disaster, I thought, this message is too big for one conference one time, and especially not to even get to do it. How do I go share this message with more people? So I wrote the book Network Beyond Bias. I started applying to different conferences just to share this notion that if you expand your network, you can expand your opportunities, you can expand your possibilities, and you can share more of those opportunities and possibilities with other people. And I think it caught on because the very first year and I literally had to Google, how do you speak at conferences, to go find out how to submit my name for these things. The very first year that I was doing this work, I spoke at 35 conferences around the country. And, my first week as a professional speaker, even though I had a day job and, as a professional other thing too, my very first week as a professional speaker, I got to speak Thank you, Talisha. Yes, self-reflection and focus is so important. And I hang on to that because I'm going to get to that in just a second. And I'm already way over the 15 minutes I promised, but I want to get to that. So thank you, Talisha, for that. Um, so when the very first week I got to speak in, I believe it was in Virginia on Wednesday, and then on Friday I was in Santa Barbara, California. So I was able to see the Atlantic Ocean on Wednesday and the Pacific Ocean on Friday. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is the best job ever. I've got to keep doing this. But I've been doing this work for about 5 years now, and honestly, it's taken me places I never would have imagined. I've had audiences and clients on 6 continents, including, believe it or not, including Antarctica. And my goal is 7 by the end of the year. And I've worked with small associations locally, and I've worked with global companies whose names and products you have all over your house. I mean, it's really been incredible. But what's important to me is not the names of the cloud of the clients that I work with. What's important to me is that I help other people find the ways they can help others and find the ways they can make the same transformation I did, which is to say, I believed my heart to be in the right place, and nothing more had ever been asked of me. And then when I realized that my heart couldn't be in the right place if I never moved my feet, it became an imperative for me to move my feet. And so this brings me to an invitation that I have for you. I've taken what I've learned in my whole life, but especially what I've learned in doing this work and in kind of putting together that internal, that self-reflection and focus that Talisha mentions. And I've put this together in a one-day training program. I've done this for some companies in the past, but for the very first time ever, I'm offering it not as a corporate training, excuse me, not that, you don't have to wait for your company to bring me in to give this talk and pay thousands and thousands of dollars for me to give this training for a day. You can actually come all on your own and do this training with me at a tiny fraction of the price that it would cost your company to bring me in. And the reason I want to do this is twofold. Number one, I'm working with a local association called the Association of Talent Development in Central Indiana. And, we talked about what could we do to kind of push this message out and help more people get involved in the diversity and inclusion conversation. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. But also, how can we help people be better leaders right where they are and engage right where they are? And so if you would, I'm going to share just real quick. I'm going to share. I am going to be, let me do this. I don't know how to make this better. I am so sorry. There we go. I am going to be in Indianapolis Friday, September 23rd. This is a full day professional development event. It's called Break Out of Bias for Breakthrough Results, and it's all about how to boost your career by doing the same kind of self-reflection and looking around and seeing, how is that flow of information and opportunity coming to you, passing through you, and leaving you? And what is it about your network that needs an upgrade so that you can have access to opportunities and the people to share them with that you haven't before? And that's what this whole day is going to be about. It's about engaging differently at work, building different relationships at work, showing up differently. And I want to be clear. Executives are welcome to attend this. There is absolutely nothing in this that is going to be, you know, too basic, I don't think, for most executives. But I want to be clear that this is for leaders at every level of an organization, regardless of your job title, regardless of your tenure, regardless of your industry. If you are a professional who really wants a career boost, I am telling you, this workshop will change your career because you will see opportunity differently. You will see your relationships differently. You'll see how you show up differently, and you'll want to be the best version of you that you can so that you are sharing that opportunity more broadly. So if you are, whether you're an individual contributor, a frontline manager, a middle manager, a senior manager, an executive, I would love to have you at this event. Again, this is at a fraction of the corporate price, so you can just buy one seat. If you're a manager, you want to bring your whole team, please bring your whole team. We would love to see you. We have there are 36 spots available right now. We may, we're opening up 36 seats. We may be able to expand that if demand warrants it, but I wanted to be sure that this was a reasonably sized group, and that you all get a chance not just to learn from me, but to learn from each other, to network, to start building relationships. So if you're in the Indianapolis area, or you can get here, and by the way, we have an airport, you can join us on Friday, September 23rd from 8:30 to 4:30 Eastern. This is in Indianapolis. It's a full day training event. It's live. We will not be recording. It will not be simulcast or broadcast. But I really want to help you, you know, get out of your own way in creating opportunity for yourself and sharing it with others in your career. So that's my message for this week. Thank you for joining me. Sorry I went long. Thank you to those who chimed in the comments. I'm sorry I didn't see them until late. And if you know somebody in the Indianapolis area, or somebody who frequently travels to Indy, or someone who, is looking for a professional development opportunity this year, that, maybe they've kind of been on hold because of COVID and they're not sure if they want to go, if they want to travel, now might be a really good time to get that approved by your manager. So please forward this to folks that you know in and around the Indianapolis area, or people who might have a little bit of a travel budget associated with their professional development budget, because I really believe that this is a program you won't want to miss. And I promise that it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of deep introspective work, but we're going to build some relationships, build some opportunity for each other in this space. So thank you all so much.